welcome to In the Cool of the Day, and today's segment, Keeping It Real with Donna and David Burks. Now, David's not here with me today, but he'll be back with us next time. Today, we're honoring a Christian organization that was founded in 1979 to address the unmet needs of women and children. Not only are we going to look at the noble role this organization has played in the community for over 4 decades, but we are going to learn about the incredible individuals that demonstrates God's love every day to the hurting women and children in the community. Please join me in welcoming the communication coordinator for Bethany House of Northern Virginia, Tiffany Santana. Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you were able to join us today. Now, I actually went to an event for Bethany House. I think it was back in October, November, somewhere back there. And I was really impressed about what you guys do. And so we wanted to make sure we brought you out here today and gave you a chance to really talk about who you are and what you do. So tell us a little bit about Bethany House.
Well, Bethany House is an organization that provides emergency shelter and supportive services to women who are escaping domestic violence.
Okay.
It's a Christian organization that began in 1979. It was the ministry of a woman named Doris Ward, who began to take care of women in her church and in her community that she discovered were suffering from domestic violence and trying to get out. And at that time, there were no resources available. So she took it upon herself to take people into her own home and care for those women and really do the work of Christ, loving on them and making sure that they're safe. And so it began to become an organization that has lasted now 4 decades.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Now, you guys are a nonprofit organization as well,
Yes.
right? So there's, do you get government resources at all to help fund that, to fund the cause?
We do get some government money, but most of our funding comes from donors, from individual donors, churches, grants, things of that nature, yes.
Now, I know we have other domestic violence shelters in the area as well. I was actually curious of how many we actually had in Virginia. I went to look that up, but I didn't find the answer. I don't know. Do you know how much it is?
In Northern Virginia, only 2.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a very underserved population, but there are only 2. Us, Bethany House, and another organization that's run by a government locality. And so we're fully private, which makes us non-jurisdictional. We can accept women from anywhere in the country, but certainly all over Northern Virginia and the greater Washington metropolitan area because of it.
Now, is that what makes you different than some of the organizations?
Absolutely. It's the thing that makes us different, is that we're not restricted by jurisdiction. Some organizations are county run and only county residents can participate. For obvious reasons. I mean, you know, taxpayer dollars go to that and they want to support the local community. But what makes Bethany House different and unique is that we accept women from anywhere. We've had women come from across the country and arrive at our doors.
Now, speaking of that, there was a young lady that was on the stage and gave her story that was very touching. I mean, myself as well as others, I know were in tears at that time trying to wipe back. Can you recap that story a little bit, her story?
Yeah, the story was Monica, and she was actually, her husband was an American citizen, but she was not. And so she came to this country with him on a visa, on a special visa, to work. They worked in the hospitality industry. And soon after she got to the country, she began to experience abuse from him. He controlled the finances. He controlled you know, their work. They worked together, so he controlled her communication or her lack of communication. He ultimately isolated her from everything. And not having citizenship in this country, it made it very difficult for her to maintain the care of her child. He got custody of her child. And so she really didn't have any resources, no family here, didn't have the benefit of citizenship. So she arrived at Bethany House. Bethany House provided her, first of all, a place to stay that was safe. But then of the many partnerships we have at Bethany House, one is with immigration. We have immigration attorneys who do pro bono work with Bethany House. So she was able not only to work through her immigration issues to receive her resident status here, but she also was able to work through the system to get full custody of her child. So many great resources get poured into Bethany House so that we can help all kinds of women, not just women who are right here locally, but even women who come to our doors from other countries.
So that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know now she has her own apartment, right?
Yes.
She's transitioned. And,
Yes, her own job,
and-
own apartment,
Yep.
and I believe she was working towards her citizenship, so
Yep.
she should be getting her citizenship
Yep.
pretty soon. So it's a blessing to see
definitely
stories like
is.
that and the impact that Bethany House
It
has.
is, and to be able to be a part of it, I'm
Yes.
sure is amazing.
Absolutely.
So it probably has, it's the happiness is there being able to serve others, but I'm sure there's the other side of it,
Yes.
especially when they leave your care.
Yes.
Right, the touching part.
Yes.
You have to see a friend go.
Yes, absolutely. But they come back. They come back around because they're so affected by Bethany House. So they always come back and visit, or they volunteer, donate. So it really does become a network and a family.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how many locations do you guys have? Is Bethany House only here in the Northern Virginia area?
Only here in the Northern Virginia area.
Okay.
And we keep the women undisclosed locations for obvious reasons, but right here in Fairfax County.
Okay. Now, how many people do you typically serve during the course of a year?
During the course of a year, usually about 75 women.
Okay.
And their children. So,
Okay.
you know, some women come to us singularly, some come with children, but typically about 75 families throughout a year.
Now, how do you guys, as far as staff, how are you able to serve those? Is it all staff? Is it volunteers and staff?
It's both. It's definitely an undertaking like this, because really you are taking families and helping them transition to new life. That takes a lot of hands and a lot of hearts. So it's quite often staff. It's actually a really small staff relative to other organizations, and a lot of volunteer help of all different kinds. So it takes a coordination of volunteers that actually come in to the offices, but also volunteers that work remotely, churches and clubs and organizations that sometimes provide help remotely. So it's really a neat undertaking that all kinds of people can get involved in.
Because you have a lot of volunteers then that would work at the houses with the women as well, or is
Yes,
that,
most of our volunteers actually work in the offices.
Okay, in the
but we
offices.
do have volunteers that work at the houses with the women and
go through the programs? Or,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And invite women on site to do things too. Sometimes churches will open their doors to provide, you know, a dinner for ladies, or they'll provide some kind of course, or a day of pampering. Some women, some organizations have done that for the women. So lots of different ways that people help to provide normalcy and help to the ladies.
Oh, nice. Now, speaking of the ladies in the intake, do you receive referrals from other organizations or the National Domestic Violence Hotline?
Yes.
How do they normally find you?
Well, we are registered with the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Okay.
So we definitely get referrals from them. And then other organizations locally, whether it's shelters that typically serve just the homeless population, and they discover that a woman has experienced domestic violence and they want to make sure that she gets the proper services that she needs.
Yep.
So we'll get referrals from them. Family members refer family members and friends, which ultimately the woman has to come in and say she wants the help. But there are a lot of different ways that we get referrals and that people come to the doors of Bethany House.
Okay, so let's say that somebody does need help.
Yes.
What's that process? When they reach out to Bethany House, what happens next?
What they'll do typically is they call our helpline, which is 703-658-9500. They'll call our helpline and they'll speak to a helpline counselor, a trained helpline counselor.
Okay.
So when they get someone on the phone, it's someone who understands what they're going through and can walk them through, make sure that they're safe immediately first, and then walk them through the process. And there's an intake process with an interview of sorts to see what the issues are and what the needs are. And then there's, if there's immediate trauma counseling or if there's medical that's needed right then and there, that will be provided. And then the women, if there's room in the shelter, we, if they're qualified candidates or if they're candidates that are deemed to be an urgent need, then they'll be moved into the shelter.
Okay. So if there's not space at that time, what do you guys do at that point?
That's the part that breaks our hearts. We have to make tough decisions. Sometimes, if the budget allows, we'll put women in hotels until there's room.
Okay.
But if there's no space and no funding for that, then unfortunately sometimes we have to turn women away. And we are keenly aware that when we send a woman out that we could be sending her to her death.
Yeah.
And that's something that we try to convey to people who help us out, that this is really life or death work. And we want to make sure that no woman has to be sent away who has gotten the courage to seek help. So it's really important that the community gets involved in this. It's something that affects all of us.
Because the fundraising is the big piece of Bethany House, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, a shortage of funds in this type of arena can mean that you can't pay for one of the shelters.
Absolutely.
Because you have multiple locations, which could be houses or
Absolutely.
other, right?
And we can't expand. And because there are 2 organizations, and that's not nearly enough to meet the need. So our goal is to expand. That's our vision. And you can't expand without money.
Yeah.
We live in a high rent district here in Northern Virginia. So, we have
Yes, we do.
we have to take care of the women, and it does take funding.
So how does, so aside from the funding, and we talked about the ladies coming in, how can a client be sure that they're going to be safe? I mean, do you hear that from them, that they're uncomfortable because they're not sure if the husband will be able to find them, or?
Initially, I'm sure women, have to decompress, really.
Yeah.
But Bethany House takes every effort to ensure the confidentiality of the places. I've worked there for 6 years. I don't know where all the shelters are.
Ah, wow.
So, making sure that the women are safe, that they're confidential. We don't tell the teachers in the school. Only certain school officials know if a child's school has to be changed. There are lots of different steps that we take. We try to have shelters near police stations.
Okay.
There's a lot of thought and care put into making sure that they're safe.
Okay. I hadn't realized that all that goes on. That is quite an undertaking to be able to have to manage all of that, and then the clients and trying to meet all their needs and all the different programs that they get referred to or that they may need to go through. Do you have in-house counselors for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
For a lot of the
we
trauma?
have 1 full-time counselor.
Okay.
2 case managers. And we have some volunteers that come in that are trained volunteers to provide services. But we do have an in-house counselor who's trained to support the women.
Okay, that's good. Well, it looks like it's about time to take a break. So we're going to take a short break right now, but we'll be right back after these announcements. So stay tuned, because when we return, Tiffany will share some memorable success stories and tell us about some of the other services available and how you can make a difference. Hi, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Donna and David Burks. Today we are recognizing Bethany House, a Christian organization that provides shelter and aftercare for victims of domestic violence. Prior to the break, we were talking about the history of Bethany House and how it is different from other organizations. In this half, we are going to learn about other services available and how Bethany House has made a difference in the lives of others. And as we were talking through the break, Bethany, one of the things that we were talking about was kind of the timeline. So why don't you share a little bit about that, about the timeline of when a lady does go into the house?
Okay. One of the things that makes Bethany House unique and different is that we are able to keep women for up to 4 months, and sometimes a little bit longer, depending on the circumstances. Other domestic violence organizations keep women for 45 days.
Okay.
And 45 days is really enough time to catch your breath. But what I love about Bethany House is that we take that 4 months, and the first few weeks we just allow the women to get comfortable and to have some calm and some peace. And then there's trauma counseling, there's career counseling if that's necessary.
Okay.
There's English as a second language counseling if that's available. Legal, we talked about earlier. Any medical that needs to be taken care of. Any transition of children to different schools and women to different places of work. So we have an extended amount of time so that ladies can really develop a new life and a new foundation. And so it's really something that we pride ourselves on, that we find has been successful for the women. It makes their return rate back to their abuser decrease dramatically when they have time to build a new life.
So after the 4 months, at that point, are they going into transitional housing then? They'll leave in Bethany House for a more permanent solution?
Yes. They will, in most cases, go to transitional housing and then ultimately to permanent housing. If permanent housing is ready and available, they'll transition into their permanent homes. And then we have a 2-year aftercare program, which is also something that's unique about Bethany House. For 2 years, the women are able to continue to receive services from Bethany House. They're even able to come to the pantry at Bethany House and get laundry detergent and diapers and shampoo. You know, those things that when you're getting back on your feet, sometimes you might have a short month and things don't come together, and that's something that women don't have to worry about. So Bethany House really tries to keep a safety net over those 2 years so that there's no chance that they will go back to their abuser, at least not for basic needs and personal needs and financial needs. We want to make sure that we give them every opportunity to get on their feet so that they don't have to be tempted to even go back to that abuse. So that aftercare program keeps the women connected to the organization, helps them to get on their feet, and helps us to have a little more time with them too, because we grow to really love the women. So it's really an organization that helps them to really move forward into a new life. And I think that because those 2 years allow for a woman to develop a new life, it's very rare. The numbers are dramatically different of women who go back to their abusers. So all of those support mechanisms really help to make the difference in their lives.
I would think, because the support system is so important.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's scary enough to leave a situation. Women stay in abuse because it's comfortable or they have nowhere else to go.
Right.
It's not comfortable that you're being abused, but the fact that it's what they know.
Exactly.
And then having to leave that and trying to figure out, especially if they don't work or they've been a homemaker or whatever for their life. So I can imagine that's pretty tough.
Yes.
So that's unique.
It is.
It's pretty cool you guys do that. So let me ask you this too. What about women that want to still get back with their husbands? At some point in a program, is there a desire to say, well, what if I can get my husband into counseling and then we can work through this, and if he changes, then we can get back together? Have you experienced that with the ladies?
Not so much. Typically, first of all, we don't offer services for the abusers.
Yep.
I don't know if there is. It takes a lot to even help the women. So we don't have those services available. But what we've discovered is that the women, through counseling, through trauma counseling, through group counseling, because they do have group counseling with other women, through creating a bond and a network, they typically discover that they either have not had an opportunity to live independently and they enjoy that. They usually discover a different side of themselves that they didn't know existed. They find new strength. And so often they understand that that's a part of their past. And they want to move forward into their future. So it's very rare that we see women who want to turn back. Because I think through counseling they discover that there are some things that just formed an unhealthy union in the first place. And when they discover those things, they usually typically don't want to go back. So that's what we've discovered.
That would make sense, especially if it's been a long time situation where it is an unhealthy relationship. So what has been Bethany's House greatest challenge that you find?
The greatest challenge, as with a lot of charitable organizations, is funding. Because we are one of 2 organizations in the region, because we provide extended care, because we have a confidentiality piece that makes it difficult for us to get the word out. That's something that Bethany House has to contend with that others don't. Other large organizations like cancer organizations or children's health organizations, they can blast the word out that we're here, we need your help. We always have to walk a delicate balance between putting too much information out and compromising the safety and the security of the women, and getting just enough information out to make sure that we get funded by the public.
Gotcha.
So that's one of our major challenges, is making sure that we continue to get the monetary support and the material support and the volunteers that we need, while still making sure that we provide the safest possible environment. And that's something that a lot of organizations don't have to contend with.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that side of it, especially because, especially protecting the women. And if you guys have events, or you go out to events, right? You have an annual event that you do?
Yes.
Okay.
The Garden of Light.
Okay.
That's the one that you went to in October. That's our largest fundraiser of the year.
Okay.
We work on it all year long. But it's really an opportunity. It's one of those opportunities that works a dual purpose. It invites the community in to hear about Bethany House, to see what we do. It provides an opportunity for volunteers to get involved, and of course it provides an opportunity for funding, for people to come in and donate their time, donate their skills, donate their money to the organization. It's really an introduction of the organization to the community. And it's a great, one of my favorite things of the year. I mean, there's great food. There's always a woman who comes and who has been through the program, who shares her story. To me, that's my favorite part, because I'm often in the office and I don't get to touch and feel and speak to the women very often. And sometimes not seeing the women every day, you can lose sight of what you're doing if you're in a computer screen, or if you're, folding envelopes or papers or whatever. So that's a time that we can really talk to the women, hear their stories, know that the first year I ever heard a woman speak at Garden of Light who'd come through Bethany House, she talked about shampoo. And she talked about how when she arrived at the shelter, there was a care basket on her bed. And in that care basket was her shampoo that she uses. Oh, wow. And just to smell the shampoo and to just have that one piece of normalcy that was hers, she felt safe. And so she told the group that night, don't think that anything that you do doesn't matter. Know that if you donate a bottle of shampoo, it matters. Know that if you donate $5, it matters. Know that, if you come in and you serve for an hour, it matters. And so that was really special for me, and that keeps me going all this time, because I know those stories of the women.
The silent auctions were pretty nice too.
Yes, yes. I always fight for my prizes. I never win.
That was pretty cool. That's actually the first time I think I've done a silent auction. So that was kind of unique to see that, like the sports package that went.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that was a good prize, so good opportunity.
And our family donates, and that's one thing too. Like volunteers, we get so involved that we give of ourselves as well, because we want things to be successful. So our family donates our condo, our beach condo for the year, and we donate gift baskets and things that we do all the time. We want to make sure that Bethany House benefits and that the community benefits. So that's what we discover too, is that our volunteers and the staff are also very giving. Well,
and then the pictures. So I bought 2 of the pictures. I think they were silent auction from the children.
Yes.
That painted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have 2 of them in my house.
Yeah.
That the children in the shelter, they paint paintings. There's an artist that comes in, a volunteer, who takes time and gives the children and the women an art class. And the produce, what they produce, we bring to the Garden of Light, and people purchase them for a donation. So it's really special. They're good conversation pieces when you want to talk about Bethany House and people come to your house and they see these paintings of children. You can tell them,
exactly.
Who
We're
that.
putting them in the office.
Yeah, that's really, and they're good. They're really good.
They were. The 2 I have, they were really good. I enjoyed them. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up here pretty quickly, so we're going to go to a couple other points. So we talked about your greatest challenge, and your greatest need is probably wrapped up in that as
Yes.
well, right?
Yes.
Is, of course, funding.
Yeah, our greatest
Keep it
need
going.
is monetary donations. It takes about $25,000 to put a woman
Wow.
and 3 children through the program for 4 months.
Okay.
And that $25,000, of course, includes shelter. It includes any educational needs, any job training, trauma counseling, transportation, work placement. I mean, a myriad services that women get in those 4 months. And we talked about it before, just living in this area.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
It is.
And so
It is.
our greatest need is always making sure that we can not only take care of the women that we have here, but expand.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of need and we're not meeting all of the need. And so we really need the community to get involved in that way.
Okay, cool. And of course volunteers, because there's a
Yes.
need for that as well,
Yes,
right?
and all kinds of volunteers. Any skill that you have, we can use it. Trust
Okay.
me.
Great. Well, let's kind of end, I think, with a success story. So if there's a quick 20-second success story you can give me.
I got 20 seconds. I recently spoke to a lady who just transitioned out of the shelter and into her home. We'll call her Candace. That's not her name. But she was living with her husband. Her husband put a gun to her head in front of her children, beat her in front of her children. Her 15-year-old son got into the middle of it. And thank God he didn't do anything to the son, but she escaped. She was living in her car. At the time, she called the hotline. The hotline called the other organization. They didn't want to take the risk because he was following her. She called Bethany House. Bethany House was full, but our caseworker went to her and put her in a hotel until there was room in the shelter, brought her into the shelter. 4 months later, she's on her feet. She's doing great.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, you know, it's exciting. And she's volunteering now. She said she's coming back to volunteer.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
She really loves the organization and she's thankful.
Well, if you would like to find out more information about Bethany House, we encourage you to go to the website. Their information is on the screen. But our time is up, and we hope that you enjoyed today's show. So I just ask you guys to, take action in your community. Look out and see what's available to get involved, even if it's not domestic violence. There's always needs out there. So see how you can play a part in that, okay? If you would like to contact us, you may do so. Again, information's on the screen. Please reach out and give us a call or email us. But have a blessed week, and we will see you next time. And until then, remember to keep it real.